Drew, I don't know about you. I am of the opinion that you can never have enough games about space.
Space is infinite, Brad.
That's true. And hopefully one day we will achieve the goal of infinite video games about space.
I'd be up for that.
Yeah, but for now we're going to add one more to the pile. We've got Adam and Jake here from System Era Softworks, right?
That's right.
That is a great name for a small indie developer.
Took a long time to come to that name.
Yeah, that's good stuff. It's multi-layered. So you guys are making Astroneer, which is sitting here right in front of us.
It is.
I think I saw one animated GIF of this game before I decided I was 100% on board with this. I feel like the footage really kind of speaks for itself. But I'm going to let you guys jump into this demo here. You're here at GDC. You're showing the game for the first time.
Yeah. It's actually a first time hands-on with anybody sort of outside of our team, which is the 4 of us, or our friends and family. So it's an opportunity for us to play test with a crap ton of people and see what kind of feedback we
Awesome.
Get some free focus tests.
We are honored.
Get the whole industry into one city at one time.
Exactly.
So like you said, like this is super early. You guys are pre-alpha, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
very, very, very early.
So everything here is subject to change.
Subject to change.
Just so people know.
We spent late nights trying to get rid of all the jankiness out of it, so we shouldn't see any of that. It should be functional.
Okay. Well, I am dying to know what this game is about, so I'm going to let you guys just kind of start. And we'll kind of peck at you with questions along the way.
Let's do it.
Alrighty, I'm back here driving, so we can see what we see.
So the game is a open world exploration game with heavy influences from like aerospace industry, some science fiction in there. But really, we just wanted to build a game about being an astronaut or astronauts with friends that are sent out to different planets in a solar system to find resources for Earth. And that's the whole fantasy that we wanted to produce, and we've sort of been working on that now for a couple of years. This build is about a year old.
Okay.
Or sorry, this build has been in production for about a year. It's not a year old. It's actually about 2 hours old.
Nice. That's the magic of GDC, right? Just updating the build every night.
First thing in the morning when we're all having our coffee, we're still working on the game. So we built a GDC demo. This is a completely traversable world. It's absolutely spherical. There's multiple biomes, but like for GDC, we have probably 10, 15 minutes of somebody's time at most. So we have built somewhat of a golden path here, which you can see some of these icons that we want people to check out.
Does that mean have you condensed these points of interest like kind of more than you would normally?
Exactly. We put these helpers up, those little notifiers. Those will probably be things that we would like to see the player themselves drop, versus maybe remove some of the hand-holding. But again, for GDC, we need to sort of streamline a little bit.
Whoa!
So that's the thing, like the way the terrain deforms in the trailers you put out, like that was the thing I saw. I was like, all right, I'm in. This is awesome, like unearthing kind of, space equipment out of the ground. Yeah,
so that's our deformation tool. It's our version of a jackhammer without being slow and mundane. So we sort of wanted to speed that up. Jay, while you're doing that, why don't you talk a bit about the tech that's behind it?
Yeah, so the tech is actually all voxel-based, just like you would kind of expect, except we've kind of smoothed the boundaries a little bit. So as much as possible, we're trying to make it not feel like a voxel game,
right,
more like it's actually just dirt that you're digging through.
It's not just a world built out of cubes necessarily.
Yeah, exactly.
There's enough of that out there.
Wow.
How far down can you dig?
To the very core of the planet, if you want. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I think we've done that a couple of times.
Yeah.
It gets a little screwy when we get down there because it's trying to figure out gravity. So we'll obviously figure out some stuff.
So in a real world, if you were to dig to the center of the Earth, you would have zero gravity actually, which is actually how we'll have it in the game.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of stuff that's underground right now, which we can see a little bit later. But we haven't done anything with the core of the planet yet.
Okay.
What's going on in your backpack here?
Oh yeah, let's look at. So this is some of the resources that we just dug up. Yes, the backpack is all just a 3D interface, so it's just sitting on your back, and you can open it up and grab stuff and take them out.
Oh wow!
So
back in.
Yeah, so for Astroneer, we embraced a completely diegetic interface. So you'll notice we don't have any 2D elements except for I guess the cursor on the ground there for the deformation tool.
Diegetic being in the world.
Right in the world.
Okay.
So you're interacting with everything as if it's a physical object. And that one of the reasons for that is that we are trying to build the fantasy of being an Astroneer, and that's a little easier to do if you're a first-person game because you kind of feel like you are that person. But we found with the 3D diegetic interface that the verbiage that you use when you're talking about it is still kind of the same as if you're in first person. So it's like, I grabbed this, I put it in my backpack, I did this. Instead of saying like my guy did this, my guy did that.
Interesting.
And that's why we really went after that. And we just sort of found that when we started playtesting it, it worked right away for what we wanted to do.
Yeah, it looks like you got some kind of obvious iconography going on in the backpack there with like shapes and colors. Like what do those things signify?
So the blue circle signifies the main interaction point. that is just a simple click. And then the white circle that pops up there is like what happens if you click and hold. So in this case, it's get in the rover to click and hold, and then click on it to take that solar panel off that Jay just took off.
And in the backpack here, we have separate shapes for each of the minerals.
Okay, so those are different.
Instead of like having icons saying this is that mineral, it's just the shape of the thing.
Different material types then?
Yep.
Cool.
I know you already grabbed some, Jay, but why don't you grab some more minerals and we can show that sort of system there. So this is going to be the yellow mineral. You can actually see the flecks of it flying out of the planet, coming right into your backpack in the back of the gun, and then when that fills up, it goes in your backpack.
Oh, should we just destroy this tree here? It's going to fall.
Oh no.
Let's get some more minerals here.
You know, if you're going to eradicate all life on this planet, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, that tree had it coming.
Is there a way to kind of track, like, you know, is the tech hierarchy, like here are the things you can build and kind of set goals for yourself, or?
Yeah, one of the, and Jake can talk more about this, but one of the things that we're looking at for doing that is the kind of printers that you're interfacing with. So our game has crafting in it, and we don't have crafting tables, we have 3D printers. And actually, Jay, do you want to talk a bit about that, about the printing paradigm?
Oh yeah, I think we'd like what you can build just to be kind of discoverable and kind of driven by your goals in the game. So if you find some physical task that you just need some help with, maybe you can find a printer or find a recipe somewhere in the world that allows you to accomplish that task. And then you'll be able to find out which resources you need to do that. Cool. And that will drive the further loop of finding more resources, finding more things to build, building those things, using them.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And we'll start the play. We didn't do it for GDC because we are trying to sort of expedite some of the adventure that's in there. But the player themselves will have a smaller printer that's on them, like a handheld one, and that'll be the thing that gives them the easier things to get to. So like the tether poles that are on the ground there. And then back at the base here, we have a full-size printer that will give us a few more options to print. And
yeah, here we've kind of framed the build as you were off exploring for a while, and then you're kind of coming back after a long expedition, maybe with some low power, and you're coming back to the base, and now you're safe. And so here we've got the tethers that you can tether into and kind of gather back some of the power that you've lost during your trip. Okay. And you can come back and maybe print some more things with the resources you've collected. Yeah, and this is this astronaut's habitat. And for our demo, and probably somewhat for early access as well, the habitat will be a source of constant power. So you can build these long tether lines out, so you can go on these longer expeditions. So if you find something that's deep underground that you want to spend some time on, you can either load yourself up with batteries or other sources of power, or you can build a long tether line that you can then hook into to power yourself.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Jason, you mind bringing the game audio down just a hair in the headphones? Thank you. What happens if you're just kind of stranded out in the field and you completely run out of power? Like, are you just sort of boned?
Yeah, you're dead. You're dead out there.
Yeah.
So you run out of power. We have the 2 meters on the back. Maybe Jay, if you want to turn the camera a little bit to look at the power and the oxygen meter.
Oh yeah, of course.
So on your backpack, we have the blue, which is oxygen, and the yellow, which is power. Those 2 bars in the middle. If you run out of power, then you'll slowly run out of oxygen. If you run out of oxygen, then you're dead. Okay. But if you can find a power source, and there's multiple ways to do that. Sometimes you'll come across wreckage that has a somewhat of a spent battery inside of it. One of the wreckages that we actually have in the GDC build is an old spacecraft that one of its solar arrays just sort of crashed down the planet, and you can hook into that, and you can actually generate some power from the sun.
Yes, what I've done here is I came back and I had mined some of this yellow mineral before, and I just built a solar panel with it.
So that's your 3D printer there with solar panel above it?
It is, yeah.
And you can cycle through, presumably, the different things?
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
Nice.
Okay. And put this on me and I'll make this.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, so I just printed the solar panel here, and it's about to get dark, so it's not going to be very useful, but I would be able to charge my battery that I've also collected in the world.
Okay.
And I can use that and put it back in my backpack and use that later to go further.
You should go land on the sun.
There's plenty of light there. We could just bring a few solar panels, we'd be fine.
Is solar the only way to charge your stuff up, or any kind of geothermal or
geothermal is actually
like
a big one that we haven't dived into right away, but it's a huge paradigm that we're sort of excited to get into.
Let's go watch the sunset together real quick.
Yeah. But there's also going to be things like you can have a power generator. Maybe this is a little silly, but you go light years across the galaxy just to find more coal, so you might find some coal to generate power for it. And so there's solar power, there's power generation. Other ideas that we've been doodling on are like things like wind power, nuclear fusion, things like that.
Wow. Okay.
So this is another one of the biomes. This is sort of like an icy planet biome. Is that where we are right now? Yeah. Perfect.
So if I want to get down here, actually, so this is another use of the deformation tool. It allows you to create paths for yourself.
It's gonna make yourself some stairs.
Yeah. So let's instead of falling up that cliff, I can just make a less steep tunnel.
Is that a survival consideration? You have like fall damage to worry about?
It is, yeah.
So you kind of want to be a little careful about stuff like that?
Yeah. Just make myself a little path here.
And we're trying to be conscious of like how players want to play. So some players may not want to spend the energy to do that. For the GDC build, we're a little bit more generous. It doesn't drain as much power as quickly as it might in the actual game. So one of the other systems that we're looking at are non-powered systems. So something like a rappel line. So the Astroneer can turn around and come down there.
Sure.
But again, if the player wants to totally dive into deformation to get in and out of those sort of hairier situations, they can do that. He can also make it wider so you can bring his rover down here and go booting around that way.
Does your deformer take power?
Yes, it does. So he's draining power from his backpack.
Got it.
And we can also add, maybe Jay, if you want to go back up to the surface, we can show them like adding terrain in and.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I really like the look of this.
Also, I actually ran across some minerals in the ground here. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, you guys are on Unreal 4, right?
Yes. Yeah, we've been working with the Unreal Engine now for about a year since last March.
It's got a really striking look to it for sure.
And the art style is actually not an accident at all. There's zero textures in this game. I think actually the textures all come on some of the buttons there. There's just like the little like the R button.
And stuff,
and part of that is that we don't want to spend. We wanted to avoid anything in game development that's going to take us a considerable amount of time for something that has very low impact in the game.
Right.
And that's not saying that textures have low impact, but for us to produce hundreds of textures, that would take a lot of time.
Right.
So for us embracing this sort of low poly art style, that means that if we have an idea, or if we read an interesting idea from somebody, or talking with you guys, if we end up spitballing on an idea, that means that we could theoretically turn it around in a very short amount of time, and then spend maybe another hour or two getting it in game and in-game ready.
Yeah, you can really communicate a lot with color and lighting and shadowing and shape and stuff.
That's a huge benefit for a team that's our size, right? So we're 4 people, so anytime we can cut out the sort of long draw development cycles, we took that opportunity.
Right.
Yeah, so here I just collected a portable printer, and so this is something that maybe you can upgrade into this when you're out just exploring in the world, finding resources. You can bring this with you and print things on the fly, usually things that you would just need for your trips. And so choosing which tool to bring with you on a trip is also a big consideration, depending on what you are planning to do. So here I've got this portable printer, and I can print some additional tether poles. Maybe it allows me to go further into a cave or something. I can print right here.
And do you have limited space on your backpack?
You do, yeah.
Okay.
We have 8 slots, yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually another consideration. Like depending on, again, what you think you're going to do, you want to bring different things, the right resources for the trip, depending on how far you think you need to go. And what you'll be doing when you get there.
Yeah, my strategy when playing is usually if I get back to the habitat, is I would take my rover, I print myself a single storage rack, which would give me 8 additional slots, so essentially another backpack worth of storage, and then a solar array, just so I had something to power myself when I was out there. And then go out, find the resources that I need, or the items that I found out some wreckage, bring that back to my base, put it on another storage rack that I have waiting at my base.
So I know the design is still in progress and the stuff may not be locked yet, but like what could you typically expect when you're starting a new game? Are you starting on a planet? Are you starting in space? Like is there kind of considerations for like character customization or starting equipment or way too big a question.
Sorry. I was focused on something else.
No worries.
Yeah, so it is an open world game, and so if you start on a new planet, you might need to bring new things with, like things that you've already printed with you, to get, especially if it's a harsh world. You want to bring like the heavy equipment, the kind of your home base stuff that you can set up when you first get to a planet. And so you will be able to travel to different planets. Some planets will be safer than others.
Right.
And so this is a relatively safe planet. But if I were to say travel to the moon where there's like fewer resources and maybe less power or something, I would want to bring some of those things with me.
Right.
And then I'd be able to set up a base of operations there that I'd be able to strike out on.
Do you always start new players on kind of a fairly friendly planet? So they can get there?
I'm sure that's what we'll do,
Yeah, we'll probably start, like that habitat that we have here has 3 modules that come out of the side of it. It would be probably something where, especially for the new rules of an Astroneer, we'd probably start you off with a habitat module, a single habitat module, just so you have somewhere to go back home and feel a little bit safe from. We don't want we have explored the idea of just like a raw Astroneer just being thrown in there.
For people in the deep end?
Yeah, but I think those situations will come up just from those players that are sort of bouncing between planet to planet. And we actually have that. We just took it up for the GDC build, just again to sort of expedite that. But at some point, we might see the moon go by, and not in the build, but as an Astroneer, you will be able to get to that moon.
Okay.
There's some things on there that you can grab and bring it back to your base. One of the things that we're trying to do with this game is like really make the idea of like, I guess, space exploration an accessible topic. So we don't spend a lot of time on things like trajectory math and exposing the player to the science behind the things that they're doing. So things like space travel, you're not going to be sitting there with like your controller like controlling your ship in between the planets that you're traveling.
Okay, so it's kind of just a point and click and head to another planet.
Yeah, exactly. You have to consider how much gas is it going to take to get there, or fuel or whatever the power resources that you're going to need. But we didn't want to worry about like orbital mechanics and things like that. So we think there's other games out there that do that, like Kerbal Space Program.
Right.
And then
Probably not going to have to calculate your escape velocity or anything like that.
Right, and we are trying to make it so that people can just jump right into the fantasy right away, while still giving them some considerations that they have to go through when they're building. Oh, nice. Jay's building
I'm building a little underground cave here.
And then we'll also give you tools to like right now he's just sort of aimlessly building into digging into a hill right now. We'll give you some tools so you can actually find these things. So surveying tools, prospecting tools to find loads of minerals.
Okay.
Oh, excellent. And these planets randomly generated?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the way that we do it is we generate a bunch of biomes offline. So we have like one that we call Icy Peaks. We have one that we call Dry River. Another one called Shard. And then within those biomes themselves, there's limits of rules that they pull from when they generate.
Okay.
And then whenever we pick a planet, we can just sort of have it pick a bunch of biomes randomly to build those planets from. So for the GDC build, we do have the biome that you're on right now, that sort of green one that's in the background, and the snowy one. Those are locked. But if we were to sit there and rebuild a new seed, the rest of the planet itself would be completely generated.
Yeah, you kind of want to strike a balance between procedural and designed elements.
Right. Sure.
Procedural is definitely helpful if you want to get a lot of content very, very quickly, but you also want to design that content.
Right.
So we're trying to make a system where you can sit there and like place some things individually and kind of design spaces that work well for the gameplay, but then also not have to like go through and make a huge amount of content just so you can make 50 different planets. Like it takes each individual plant and each hill.
That definitely seems like kind of a high wire act for a lot of developers that are generating a lot of content but also want to make it meaningful.
Yeah.
At the same time,
Procedural generation is definitely on the rise, and that's because indie development is on the rise.
Yeah.
Could you let the robots do the work for you? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one of the challenges we saw really early on when we're doing procedural stuff is that you can run into a situation where, I'll pick a like one of the biomes, so just like an Icy Peaks biome, that snow one that's there.
I keep thinking you're saying ICP.
I know. I'm waiting for.
Sorry, Icy Peaks. Sorry, I am talking a little fast.
Here's a Fago plan.
waiting for Violent J to pop up over the horizon.
That's future DLC. Okay. So with the Icy Peaks biome, we had these challenges where if we throw you to that biome, if you kind of see it like once on your screen, you can kind of end up seeing what the rest of it's going to be. Like it's really hard to generate these moments that forces players to explore. So
No.
Oh no!
nice, flip it.
Let's see if this works. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
We literally put that in, I think, this morning.
Yeah, and that's the first time I've actually tried that.
Wow.
Another of our developers put that in yesterday, and he's like, "Oh, it works." And I'm like, "I trust you."
Driving without a net here, folks.
So with with procedural generated content, like it's kind of like you run into a thing where if you see it one portion of it, you end up kind of seeing the rest of it because it just generates from the same rules. So we end up mashing a lot of biomes together. There's a really good bleed between them as well, so you kind of get a mismatch of biomes. And then in the middle of that as well, we also have procedural world discoveries. So things that you're just going to kind of come across naturally. In our case, we have wreckage, and we put these little notifiers out of it. World discoveries, things to find underground. We have a lot of sort of mystery secret stuff that we're not really talking too much about right now that we want to sort of have players discovering.
Sure.
There's a bit of wreckage there on the side. I think now Jay's just completely driving in a random direction here. We'll see what we come across.
I'm chasing the sunrise here to see if I can also see another biome over here.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Okay, so you won't necessarily have one biome per planet.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
You don't subscribe to the Star Wars School of Planet Design.
And actually here we're coming across a sort of a desert one.
Oh, cool.
Okay, yeah.
And they'll have their own challenges. We haven't officially talked. put this down in our design, but we do have some biomes that are easier than others, a little bit more generous.
No, nice.
That was a really deft solution to the fact that your car was about to roll away.
Yeah, we
awesome.
haven't put the e-brake in the game yet.
Yeah.
So the biomes themselves will offer different challenges. The one that he's about to drop into is a bit of an easier one. It's not as turbulent. We have one that's called Shard, which is that purple that's kind of coming in a little bit.
Down there.
Are there any environmental, like survival concerns in the different biomes in terms of like temperature, atmosphere, stuff like that? Or?
Yeah, that's definitely things that we want to explore. One of the things that we actually get asked a lot about, like, you know, are there like aliens? What sort of hazards that the players have to avoid? Especially for early access, and at least for a while, we're not too interested in exploring like little gray men that you're gonna have to avoid. We really want to go after environmental hazards. We have, you know, sandstorms, dust storms, acid rain, hot geysers, things like that you have to ignore. Because we're really interested in playtesting our interface design for GDC, we ended up taking a lot of that stuff out. So we're not punishing people too much with the game. But like as you've seen in the trailer that we did back in October, we have a lot of that stuff in there, and it's really rad. Like with the sandstorms right now, it's really kind of cool. We're not doing anything like a health bar. It's just sort of like you're either healthy, you're injured, or you're dead.
Okay.
And that. So like right now with the sandstorm, when it comes by, it actually starts rocking your habitats and kind of throws them around, and your player itself might get thrown. I like this biome a lot. I think this is actually one of the first ones we did.
I love the kelp forest movement to these little green plants.
Oh, some of them are floating. Look at that.
Live demo, folks.
Outer space.
Oh, so one thing we haven't shown yet is adding the terrain back into the world to
yeah.
build things. Let me make a little sculpture up here if I can. Really, Adam should be driving this. He's the artist, so we'll see what I can come up with.
And there's a lot of stuff that we're really interested in exploring with the deformation. So things like some modules might have a requirement to be like 50% submerged in dirt because it's a geothermal reactor, or they might need like really flat terrain.
Okay.
So you've seen some simple tools here. We have add and subtract, but other ideas that we're playing with are like a smooth tool or a flatten tool, so that players can build like really flat roads for the rovers to drive around.
Oh yeah.
And exploring ideas like that to really support the other systems that we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure where you're going with that for a second.
Saved.
How do you handle like permanence of kind of, you know, messing with terrain and building things and stuff like that? Like is that I assume that's saved permanently for you locally? Is there any kind of aspect of like communal building? Is there any multiplayer?
There is multiplayer. And in fact, we were testing it out this morning. So you can have two people running around right now, and I think for early access we'll probably go up to 4, Jay.
Oh yeah.
Four people.
Okay.
And that you can sit there and actually deform together, and it's actually really good.
Yeah.
In fact, Brendan, who's been working a lot of the multiplayer stuff, he likes to troll me where like I'll be walking, he'll deform underneath me as I'm like, trying to get somewhere. So
Nice.
Screw with me that way.
How does that work in terms of like maintaining a session? Like is, you know, a lot of games like Terraria and stuff like that, you can kind of run a server where people can hop in and out and contribute to the same world whenever they feel like it. Is it going to work like that, or are you going to have to be running your session?
Yeah, from the get-go, we'll be sort of like that model.
Okay.
Sort of server. You can make a dedicated server too.
Okay, excellent.
Make your own little worlds
Great.
that are persistent if you want. But yeah, you just join in, make a game, have friends join your game.
Okay, cool.
And then we'll think about like larger scale multiplayer in the future, but definitely early access. We're just focusing on local co-op, playing with your friends.
Sure.
So I don't know. So what do you think, Adam? Is this good?
Yeah. For me, I would want to hang. I would want to hang something from that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Turn on your art director sensibilities here. Start decorating.
Let's make another whatever. There we go.
Nice. And we'll also, like in the future, you can choose the color that you're adding back in. So you saw all the terrain itself has different colors to it. And I believe right now the way it works is that whatever you suck up is whatever you're going to put back in. And we have a little canister that's on the side of the deformation tool that fills up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had this idea where if there's different colors of dirt in the world, you can kind of mix them together to create new colors, just like you would like an artist's easel.
Wow, I can't wait to see what people make.
Oh yeah,
totally.
I'm not good at this, but I'm sure with people actually having a lot of time on their hands to do this, they'll make some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I think around November, December, I built a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
That was all admittedly a little half-assed because we were short for time. But I totally built one, and you could choose the colors and do all that kind of stuff. It was really kind of cool.
Did you like use these tethers as like lights or something?
Yeah, I used the telepoles.
great.
I used the telepoles as Christmas lights and something else as the ornaments. I can't remember.
You like put these up on like
Yeah,
just kind of like that.
So what would you do if you were very far afield of your habitat, like in this situation? Like, is there any kind of quick way to get back to your home base, or are you just gonna have to
you have to sort of think about that before
take
you
that
go
into
out.
account?
Yeah, it's kind of like one of the fantasies that we really like putting in our minds is like you're kind of going on a camping trip, so you have to think about what you need to bring with you. Now you're going to run into situations where you're completely boned and you're probably going to die. But to us, that's sort of your fault, right? Like you have to kind of think about that when you go out, and we're okay with that. But we don't want to we don't want to put players in situations where they're just set up to fail.
Yeah, so I guess in this situation, I'm actually running out of power here, so I should probably think really quickly about what I want to do.
Yeah, I would recommend your rover.
So it sounds like kind of like a tough but fair philosophy.
Yeah.
In terms of like, all right, you know what you have to work with. Like, it's up to you to work within those constraints.
Yeah, and really think about that before you go out. In one of the earlier builds, like I was saying before, I would load up a storage rack and a solar array. But I'd also I'd make sure that my rover was completely charged. I'd make sure that I have a couple batteries for backup that are charged, and take all those with me.
And actually the rover is a slight answer to that. Like if you bring more heavy equipment on your rover with you, then you can actually have a base away from your base.
Okay.
That you can kind of bring around and stay safe just by getting back to your rover. So you can go on these longer expeditions because you brought heavier equipment with you.
Okay. I know you said you had some of the stuff disabled in the GDC build, but is it possible to get off-world at all in this build, or?
Yes, we can go into orbit.
Yeah, I would love to see that if.
Jay, why don't you head back to the, or if we can find it, why don't we head back to the?
Should be able to. If it's so the sort of end of the GDC build is you collect a bunch of stuff, build some things that you would bring with you to another planet. You blast off.
Get the hell off this rock.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so where are we at? Is that the mountain over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see like the slight outline of it over there.
So we actually in the 11th hour, we decided to not let people go to the moon in the GDC build.
Okay.
It's totally there. It's another planet that you can get onto.
That's totally my fault. I'm just not a good enough engineer.
Oh, come on.
I don't have the time.
Is it? Is it kind of the standard open world idea of if you can see it, you can go to it? Generally.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to just throw you into an arms race with No Man's Sky here or anything.
Right.
But how expansive are we talking? Like, do you just keep generating planets as people keep exploring, or?
Yeah, so I'd say for early access, we are solar systems, not galaxies.
Okay.
We will think about galaxies in the future, though.
One thing at a time.
We had this really interesting idea. Is if you look up in the sky and you see a star, that those stars are not actually just a texture.
Right.
Like they're actually
They are represented.
points of light.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can't just hop out and immediately travel to them. You have to build up the ability to go there.
Right.
And then actually travel there.
Right.
We like the idea of, and it's all set up this way now. So the moon is actually orbiting the planet that we're on. The planet that we're on is actually orbiting around the sun that it's got. So we are diving right into solar systems, and you can kind of imagine a server being a solar system.
Right. Yeah.
And then in the future, maybe that server is part of a larger hive, something maybe like what DayZ did.
Okay.
There's sort of hive servers, and that's part of a different galaxy.
Kind of network here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can go to other worlds and not know whether anybody's there, and then you kind of just discover somebody, and then you have to figure out how to interact with them and how to either befriend them or compete, then
I've got this fantasy that I'm really waiting for the moment to have where I arrive on a planet, I don't know if anybody's there, I don't know what the planet's all about. Oh, you're almost dead, dude.
Oh geez.
Oh boy.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think Riley just put in the audio for that.
Yeah.
Do you die if you run out of power?
You die when you run out of oxygen.
Yeah.
So when your suit's no longer able to support itself, then you run out of your oxygen tank depletes, and then you're dead.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that's
what
what
we'll say about this world is it just has oxygen in the atmosphere that you can get a little bit of without breathing it directly. And that can also be a thing that's different between worlds. Is some require you to actually generate oxygen all the time, whereas others just it's a lot easier just based on the atmosphere makeup.
Since you're trying to go for kind of a UI-less experience, how do you indicate stuff like, oh, here's what the atmosphere is composed of, or mapping functionality? There are some things that they're kind of hard data points.
And you'll see we have some text in there, like on the printer over there. So we'll probably explore that paradigm further with that.
Yeah.
So
one thing is maybe these habitats, they kind of have everything you need to make the sort of considerations. And so you bring this habitat module with you, and it's just got on the side of it just a readout of what the atmosphere is. So you can go up and click on it and see it. It pops up in front of your face.
Sort of display that stuff in world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're trying to. This is totally the wrong word to use, but we're trying to not punish them by having things attached to the modules. Like normally in a game, you'd press a button and the little interface would come up and you kind of see that. We want the things to be in the world. So your habitat would be, you could see yourself building a module that's like a weather station, and one that's a power station, and one that's your sort of place that you sleep. So if you want to save the game or survive through a sandstorm. And that we want those things to be like a consideration the player has to like build into, place it in the world, and they know where to go back and get to it. That's a little punishing in that you don't have that information when you're away from it.
Oh no!
Oh, you got in. Okay, do it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. So what I've done here is I've attached a solar panel to the side. Maybe I would bring a lot more with me if it was a real trip.
Right.
But I would have all these slots here that I can bring some stuff with me, and then I can launch off.
Wow.
Oh geez,
Off we go.
need to fix that one.
So one of the things we're really excited for is those little notifiers that we have, those little like question marks and stuff. So it would be interesting if like one of the things we want is you see the moon from the planet. The first time you ever get there, you actually can't really choose where you're going to land.
Oh, that's great.
So you'd sort of just click on the moon and place a notifier there, and then tell your rocket go to that notifier.
Okay.
But then the next time, like when you arrive there, then you can kind of like hand place one down, get back to your base, the other planet, and now you have that notifier that's there for you all the time that you hand place there. And this is the end of our GDC demo.
Okay.
Like a nice little crescendo moment there. Then it's as if we set it up, but there goes the moon just over the horizon.
All right. Well, great. I consider myself edified now. I finally know what this game is. I have one more question.
Sure.
It is the worst question to ask when you're this early, but I have to.
Sure.
Do you guys have a time frame in mind?
We do. It's end of summer or early fall.
Okay.
We haven't quite nailed down the date, but you can expect it around there.
Okay.
On early access.
On early access,
Okay.
yep. And I mean everything that we see here is going to be in early access, plus all the other stuff that we talked about. So the hazards and new things to craft into and things like that. Obviously. I'm not going to say, I don't want to say the word officially, but we could generate an infinite amount of planets based on the biomes that we have.
Take that, No Man's Sky. 18 quintillion, whatever.
Oh, geez.
Let's not go there.
Yeah.
Just start some good proper rap beef here. You guys just start doing diss videos or whatever.
And so it's early access is going to have the first inkling of all the ideas that we have. Mm-hmm. So the example there is multiplayer. So we really want to expand multiplayer and make it a thing that players are playing with friends and strangers. But at launch at early access, it'll be me with a local server that 3 of my friends can join and play around on.
Okay, excellent. Well, Adam and Jake, thank you very much for stopping by.
Yeah,
thank you so much, guys.
I'm very excited to see more of this game.
Awesome.
And have a good GC.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks, guys.